Hey everyone, Jonah here from Dropgun Samples with another tutorial for you. Today, I wanted to go over some tips on creating your own vocal shouts and processing them and making them sound professional in your mix.
Let's go to a techno party.
In this video, I'll talk first a little bit about the gear for creating your own vocals. I'm also going to cover what you can do with raw vocals to set them up for processing, and then some effects you could add to really make them stand out. I'll even be pointing out some alternative plugins for each step. Most of them are free. For this project, I'm using sounds from our PAX Mainstream Deep House and Vocal Slap House 3. Make sure you subscribe to us for more tips like this. Now, let's process that vocal. Let's first quickly talk about gear, because there's a common misconception that you need expensive gear or a professional studio to record quality vocals. While better gear will always make for a better sound, modern plugins and creative problem solving has allowed for people with the simplest setups to record vocals for some of the most popular tracks out there. Take for example how Maupe's Drugs from Amsterdam is actually a vocal from a video recording.
Off my face, don't know where I am, because I got my drugs from Amsterdam.
That said, if you really wanted to record a quick spoken vocal phrase, it could be as simple as just taking out your phone and using the recording feature. But if you're just getting started and you want to get yourself some recording gear, the best way to start would be a USB microphone. USB microphones plug directly into your computer. You can get the Audio-Technica AT2020, which is very highly rated, or the Logitech Blue Yeti, as I'm using right here. The Rode Video mic plugs right into your phone and is a great option if you want to record things on the fly, if you're on the move and you come up with ideas while you're not in the studio. So clearly, recording your own vocal phrases for your tracks is a lot more accessible than you think. So grab your phone or your mic, have some fun recording lines for your track, and let's get started on pre-processing. One more time, let's check out that processed vocal in context.
Let's go to a techno party.
So here's that vocal unprocessed. Let's go to a techno party. One of the first things you could do to set up this vocal is to use an expander. Most digital audio workstations come with an expander plugin. Ableton's compressor allows for it, and there's plenty of great ones on the market. This is going to work kind of similar to a compressor, except instead of looking for peaks to compress, it's going to look for a noise floor to drop. Watch your meter and see where the lowest point in your present audio occurs. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party. So it seems like my audio is rolling off at about negative 12 decibels. I'm going to find my threshold just before that, so let's go about negative 14. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno. Your attack, release, and ratio work very similar to a compressor. More ratio means that more of the floor is going to be separated from the sound. Since this already doesn't have a lot of background noise, I'm going to do a lower ratio. Let's go to a techno party. 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 So as you can see, it's kind of grabbing the bottom dynamics from the sound and pulling them up 3.7 decibels. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party. So this is a great way to create more presence in a sound while still being gentle with its dynamics. Moving on to the next step, many engineers prefer to use a noise gate to remove background noise and silences from a vocal audio. In this case, since we're just using a singular vocal shout, it's actually better to just cut the audio yourself and use fades to maintain it. So as you can see, I've already cut this audio down a fair amount. Let's say I were to have a gap in the audio right here, like a space between words. I would want to cut that and use fades. I'm going to use one on the end right here just to demonstrate. I'll hug the end of the audio, go into my region editor and add a fade out. Also add a fade in to make sure there's no sudden transients, and this is just really maintaining the sound and making sure that there's no background noise leaking in through the beginning or the end of the audio. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party. Now this next step you could decide if you want to do later in the processing, but at this stage I like to do my vocal pitch adjustments. It's good to repitch your vocal before you process and mix it so that none of that processing and mixing that you did on it gets undone afterwards. And it's okay if you wait to do this later, you just might have to make some adjustments to your processing afterwards to accommodate for the difference in frequency shift. Because essentially if you change the pitch of a vocal, you are changing the frequency and the dynamics of it, in which case the same mixing parameters that you applied in the beginning might not still apply now. So if you feel comfortable with it, get that repitching out of the way in the beginning. All audio workstations have a way to adjust the pitch of the audio file easily. Up here in Logic, you can go to the top left and transpose the audio file as you wish. However, I really enjoy the formant control of pitch plugins like Little Altar Boy by Sound Toys. I'm going to start with one instance of Little Altar Boy, taking down both the pitch and the formant about 5 semitones.
Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party.
This is a pretty great vocal effect in itself, and plenty of tracks have been successful just having a pitch down vocal. However, I have a pretty neat pitch trick here that's very easy to do and used in countless tracks today. Let's open up a second instance of Little Altar Boy or any pitch plugin you have that has mix control. On here, you want to raise the pitch and the formant 7 semitones. Next, move over into your mix and set the mix back about 50% or to taste.
Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party.
You could try out different formant positions to see what you like best.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
I think you'll like it at 8. Now that we've set this vocal up, let's talk about some processing tips that'll make it sit clearly in your mix. A great way to start your processing is a dynamic EQ. A dynamic EQ is a combination of an EQ and a dynamics plugin that allows you to compress or expand certain bands of frequencies of a sound as if they're EQ bands, while also giving you the full capabilities of a regular EQ. Two of the most popular dynamic EQs are FabFilter's Pro Q3 and Isotope Neutron 3. Waves has a great dynamic EQ, and another great one is Soothe 2. The reason why dynamic EQs are so popular for vocals are that they're able to recognize and maintain the harsh dynamics of sounds without completely killing them. This is great for sibilance control and works as a kind of combination between an EQ and a de-esser. For this, I'm going to use FabFilter Pro Q3. Start with your typical roll-off at around 80 to 100 Hz, play the sound, and find that point where you really just start to lose the body of it.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go.
The next thing to do is set a bell curve around 6,000 Hz and make sure that your dynamic EQing is on. Give this bell a slight boost of no more than 1 decibel, and then bring your dynamics down to about -3 decibels. As for the threshold, a lot of these dynamic EQs have a built-in auto threshold that recognizes the sound and decides whether or not to compress it. I highly suggest using that. Play your sound and find where on the frequency spectrum that dynamic adjustment needs to be made, and then make adjustments using the dynamic range.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
Another good dynamic adjustment is around 400 to 500 Hz to maintain the body of the sound. No more than 2 to 3 decibels of dynamic adjustment here is needed.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
Another use of this EQ on the vocal is to add a little bit of air. So let's boost these highest frequencies up here with a tight bell curve about 4 to 6 decibels. Make sure to accommodate with a high cut roll off.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
It's worth noting that you don't absolutely need a dynamic EQ to process vocals. However, if you're looking to invest in any mixing software, it's my opinion that the most important thing you could get for yourself is a dynamic EQ. If you're good with the dynamic EQ, it eliminates the need for a compressor in a lot of different situations and also helps keep your mixes way cleaner than you thought they could be. So next we move into a multiband compressor. Multiband compressors are good for maintaining minor peaks in the important frequency ranges of the vocal so that we can boost them with a little bit of makeup gain and get some air and life out of it. In other words, we're adding air or body to the vocal while accounting for its gain spikes. For this, I'm using Isotope Neutron 3's multiband compressor. If you don't like the stock multiband dynamics in your workstation, a good free one is Convergence by Cut Through Recordings. A good separation of bands is around 4K to capture those sibilance frequencies. For both of our compressor settings, we're looking for a ratio of around 3.5 and a quick attack and release. At this point, you could play the vocal and adjust the threshold until you see about 3 to 5 decibels of gain reduction on each band.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to.
Due to all this high frequency control, the vocal might be sounding a tad dull. This is where you could jump into your high band of your multi-band dynamics and add about 3 to 5 decibels of makeup gain.
Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party.
This should really brighten up the sound while still maintaining all those harsh dynamics.
Let's go to a techno party.
The next good plugin for your processing chain is a tube saturator. Tube saturators are very popular for vocals and could be used to add a little bit of color or a ton of drive. For this example, I'll use iZotope Neutron 3. If you want a more distorted clipping effect on the vocal, feel free to adjust this as you please. However, a great starting point is to have about 50% mix and about 50% drive. From there, you can adjust the mix and the drive as you please.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno.
For an added bonus, if you have a multi-band saturator like Neutron, you could create high bands, low bands, and adjust them how you like. In this case, I'm actually going to create a little bit of tape saturation on the high bands just to get a little bit more excitement up there.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
Some other great saturation plugins for vocals are TubeAmp by Volksango or Expressor by ePhonics. And the final piece of processing I add to this vocal before effects is one final compressor to smooth out any outlying dynamics and boost the rest of the sound. Any stock compressor will do just fine with this. However, in this case, I like to use Logic's emulator for the glue compressor. That's the vintage VCA. Keep your ratio around 3.5 and your attack relatively quick. If your compressor allows for auto gain, turn that off and use the metering until you see about 3 to 5 decibels of gain reduction.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go.
At this point, the processing chain has probably taken your vocal back a considerable amount, so we want to give it a little bit of makeup gain.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
So that's about it for the technical processing on the vocal. At this point, it should fit perfectly fine in your mix. However, there's some things we could do to really make it stand out, so let's move on to effects. The first vocal effect I like to add is a wide layer, and I do that by parallel bus mixing. Create a new send on your vocal and add it to the project. Make sure your send output is relatively loud. So mixing on the send bus now, let's start with a simple EQ rolling off the bottom 400 to 600 Hz just to make sure that none of those low frequencies are getting in the wide layer. This is one of my favorite free plugins ever called iZotope Vocal Doubler. You can download it directly from their website for free right now. It's essentially a vocal doubler. As you move this note around, it's going to change the variation and the separation of the different vocal takes. Separation meaning how far to tune they are, and variation meaning how different they are every single time as the vocal goes through. One of the great things about this plugin is that you could select the effect only option, which only allows the wet signal to escape the plugin and keeps the dry signal away. Since this effect is actually a send, keeping the effects signal only on is the right way to mix it. You could then play the vocal and adjust the amount of the effect to your liking by changing the volume of the send.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
Another great free plugin for this type of effect is Valhalla Space Modulator. It gives you plenty of options of chorus, doublers, flangers, any sort of modulation that you might need. And again, this is also free. These companies are practically giving you the best effects out there. So next up, we have reverb and delay. Now on a full vocal stem, I do like to use send buses for reverb and delay. However, since this vocal shout is so short, we can just focus on short controlled effects. And we can apply those effects directly to the channel. Starting with delay, this free delay plugin from Valhalla called Frequency Echo is simply incredible. It's great for adding quick, time-based delay. A good starting point is about 35 to 50 milliseconds and having a mix around 5 to 15%.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
This creates that slapback robot vocal effect and adds a ton of depth. Next, we're going to move into a small room reverb, and any reverb plugin you have works great. For this example, I'm going to use Logic's Chromaverb. Since we don't want the big long reverb effect on a vocal like this, let's take our decay down to around 0.75 seconds. You can keep your dry level at 100% and your wet level at about 10%. In other words, keep your mix level at around 90%.
Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party.
We're really just looking to create a small room around the vocal and put it in a setting so that it could be better digested by the listener.
Let's go to a techno party. Let's go to a techno party.
Finish off your vocal with a final subtractive EQ to roll off any rogue low frequencies and any spikes that might be occurring.
Let's go to a techno party. 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 Let's go to a techno party.
All right, let's hear this vocal one more time in context.
Let's go to a techno party.
Before, let's go to a techno party. After.
Let's go to a techno party.
So that's going to be it for today's tutorial. I hope you guys learned a little bit about processing vocal shouts and feel a little bit more confident about adding your own vocal to your song. If you have any questions or suggestions about this tutorial, feel free to leave a comment below. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Discord, and TikTok to stay up to date with our tutorials and our packs. I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you drink water, protect your hearing, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.